Hello and welcome. In today's video, we are going to talk about something that will help you understand the process of self-observation and what it is for better. The practice of self-observation is central to the journey of self-awareness and personal growth. It's a discipline that requires repeated attention to our thoughts, behaviors, and speech, not just once, but continuously until the automatic, mechanical aspects of our nature are fully recognized and released. It's about getting into the habit of continuously observing yourself and your habits. It is not about seeing a dysfunctional behavior once, but honestly observing it over and over again. It is an ongoing process of remaining conscious enough to notice when we fall into the same patterns until they no longer control us. Our job is simply to observe without reacting. If we do this honestly and earnestly, the patterns will start to go away with time, especially if you also work with releasing blocked emotions. It's important to note that there are different views about how much you are supposed to struggle with yourself. Many fourth way teachers seem to put a lot of emphasis on going against one's ingrained patterns, while there seems to be an easier way. Namely that, if you persist in observing the patterns in the way prescribed here, you only need to be ready to let go once you feel a nudge to do so, if your wish to let them go is a sincere one. Remember that the process primarily is about being and not about doing, and that you engage in these practices because they will help you to get to know yourself better and make you more equipped to handle life, and not because they make you a better, more insightful, or more spiritual person. One of the key insights from the fourth way tradition is that humans are not unified beings, but are composed of multiple selves. These selves often operate independently, leading to conflicting behaviors and a lack of true self-awareness. The practice of self-observation helps to bring these different selves into view, allowing us to understand their influences on our thoughts, feelings, words, and actions. What is not uncommon to notice when one observes oneself is that one can hold such contradictory personalities within oneself as an indulging hedonist and an abstaining ascetic, even though most of the personalities are less different from each other. But there is often a battle of different wills going on inside. To know that you can take a step back from the chaos inside and just observe it without getting caught up in it can be very helpful, just like getting into the habit of consciously asking yourself what you truly want. Self-observation involves recognizing the four main functions of human behavior: intellectual, emotional, instinctive, and moving. Each of these functions operates through its own center or part of the mind. The intellectual function involves thinking and reasoning. The emotional function governs feelings. The instinctive function covers automatic bodily processes, and the moving function relates to learned physical actions. Effective self-observation requires differentiating between these functions, as each operates at different speeds and has unique characteristics. All of this may sound very complex, but a key to understand this is that the different functions tend to malfunction, meaning that the intellectual function tries to do the work of the emotional function, the emotional of the intellectual, and so on. You get the point. If you can keep this in mind, it becomes easier to spot when one function has taken over the job of another function. The human machine is meant to run smoothly, and as you go through your awakening process and align yourself more and more with it, this will happen naturally. So don't worry if you find this complicated. See this as a help on the way, and not something that you have to force yourself into. As stated in the beginning, the process of self-observation is not about judging or interfering with what we observe. Instead, it involves simply noticing what is happening within us at any given moment. This might include observing habitual gestures, speech patterns, or emotional responses. Over time, this accumulation of observations provides material for deeper analysis, enabling a more profound understanding of our inner processes. One of the significant challenges in self-observation is overcoming the tendency to fall into imagination. Now, we're not talking about creative, conscious use of the imagination here, and understanding that there are different ways of using the imagination can in itself be an important insight for many. In this context, imagination refers to the mind's tendency to drift into daydreams and fantasies that are detached from present reality, as well as the imagination's tendency to imagine all kinds of negative futures that never come to pass. Ouspensky warns that uncontrolled imagination can sap our energy, distort our self-perception, and push us into a fearful state of mind. Therefore, a critical aspect of self-observation is recognizing when we are lost in imagination and gently bringing our attention back to the present moment. Another obstacle is the resistance we often encounter when we try to observe certain aspects of ourselves, especially those that are less flattering. Ouspensky notes that self-observation often reveals mechanical behaviors, reactions, and thought patterns. These are patterns that we follow automatically without conscious awareness. These behaviors are deeply ingrained and can be challenging to observe because they happen so quickly and habitually. This is where a huge part of the work lies, not so much in struggling against these patterns, but simply to dare take an honest look at whatever we find, over and over again until we're ready to release whatever we find. Thus, to practice self-observation effectively, it is essential to integrate it into daily life. This can be done through simple practices like journaling, where one records observations about thoughts, emotions, and actions. Reflecting on these observations regularly helps to identify patterns and recurrent themes in our behavior. Mindfulness practices, such as paying attention to the breath or bringing awareness to everyday tasks, also enhance our ability to observe ourselves. What we want to get at is to bring our attention back to whatever is going on in the present moment, both within and in our interactions with the world. The benefits of self-observation are significant. By becoming more aware of our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, we can gain greater self-control and stay more anchored in the present moment. This practice helps us to train our brains to make more conscious choices, rather than being driven by automatic reactions. Over time, self-observation can lead to greater inner unity and coherence as we begin to harmonize the different parts of ourselves. Ouspensky also emphasizes that self-observation is not just about observing the mind, but also the body. The instinctive and moving functions which govern automatic bodily processes and learned physical actions are just as important to observe as our thoughts and emotions. By becoming more aware of these functions, we can enhance our overall well-being and bring more consciousness to our daily lives. In conclusion, self-observation is a continuous, disciplined practice that is essential for anyone seeking personal growth and self-awareness. It involves repeatedly observing our thoughts, behaviors, and speech until the automatic, mechanical aspects of our nature are fully recognized and released. By remaining conscious and vigilant, we can gradually free ourselves from the patterns that control us, leading to a more conscious and intentional life. This practice, while challenging, is ultimately rewarding, offering the possibility of profound personal transformation and a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. It bears repeating that self-observation is not an end in itself. It is a means to an end, a tool for developing greater self-awareness and consciousness. The ultimate goal is to reach a higher state of being, where we are no longer controlled by our automatic responses, but can act with intention and purpose. This requires not only observing ourselves, but also making conscious efforts to change the patterns we observe. In the end, all that is required of us is to let go of all that we've falsely identified with and live without resistance in the present moment. This can happen in a flash or after a lifetime of struggling with oneself. Self-observation should not be seen as required for this breakthrough experience, where we're finally released from all the illusions that bind us. It should rather be viewed as one of many tools that can help us see what has been with us all along.